everyone, Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you as always for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com on 3. Now with On 3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Flow game for the win! Ayla's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Oh. Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Always grateful to have you along, no matter how or where you're listening. Appreciate everybody, especially for joining us on one of our great radio station affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, WREF. Always the right call in Evansville, up in the region on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's sports station, 1380 The Fan. You've got it in the right place now. Keep it locked there throughout your day, wherever you're going. Plenty to get to today. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News will stop by, and we'll talk to Tom Dinhardt from goldenblack.com, the On3 outlet for Purdue. They pick up a great pickup yesterday. A little surprising. Talked about Nico Tuggle. Man, his name sounds like he was in the movie Tropic Thunder. Nico Tuggle. So that sounds fun. But, and the basketball portal closes today. Will we see a late rush of names getting into the portal? Because all that means is this is the last day you can enter the portal. So maybe more names hitting it. Guys being dramatic. We'll see. Indiana on the search for some bigs to go with the rest of the guards that they have added. Now Trent DeVries, he's more of a wing, I think. But and they've got Reed Bailey, but they've got to add some bigs, I'm not saying something that everybody doesn't know and the coaching staff doesn't know. So we'll see how they end up with that. It just makes you say, where are they with this situation? But we shall see. As I wrote in the description of the headline, as one portal closes, another one opens. The basketball portal coming to a close tonight as far as entry, like I said. Football portal just opening. Indiana already having landed a couple of fish. Not one was just a transfer. The Kent State kid we talked about yesterday on the defensive line, that former teammate of CJ West. So good pickup there. But they also got a commitment from a 4-star linebacker out of Ohio. Great pickup for the Hoosiers on that side, on that front as well. So they're continuing to make hay, man. Continuing to do everything that they need to do to set themselves up for the future. And they are recruiting, you can tell, in hitting all of the areas, whether it's today in the transfer portal, the 26 class, 27 class. Kurt Signetti and staff have quickly gotten a handle on their recruiting. And especially when you come in and you're new, a little more difficult because you don't have any traction. But They have definitely got it going on. Looking forward to talking to Tom Dinhardt about that and the Big Ten in general, and the and I don't know how to say the guy's name. It's Iamaleava, the quarterback from Tennessee that transferred from Tennessee to UCLA. His younger brother also going to UCLA now after having committed to Arkansas, but he had previously been committed to UCLA. So for a program that hasn't had that has had NIL difficulties, you're wondering, okay, for a guy who left Tennessee over an NIL dispute because he wanted more than the already agreed to amount. He was already getting, I think, $2.2 million. It wasn't going to be enough for him. He wanted a $4 million deal. And there's no way in hell I can imagine him having gotten that at UCLA with all the problems they have with NIL, both basketball and football. It just seems a little odd. We'll have some On3 guys on later in the week. I mean, national guys, and I look forward to talking about that. And ironically, Iamaleava, whatever the hell his name is, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I don't know how to say it. Nico. I'll just call him Nico. How's that? Nico will be in Bloomington October 25th. Yeah, as the Bruins pay a visit to Indiana. Well, both will be. Both brothers will be in Bloomington, in addition to Indiana's former offensive coordinator. So a lot of connection going on with this story. Looking forward to talking to Tom more about that. I'm not sure if they are on Purdue's schedule or not. The Hubers event for our peeps down in southern Indiana and all around, but that's a huge event. It draws people from further around than just down there close to the Borden area. But the Hubers event coming up on May 28th. If you don't have your tickets, you might want to get them because that thing generally sells out. It has for quite some time. I don't have the information for that. I'm just letting you know, but just Google it. It'll pop up somewhere. Indiana lands a big-time recruit in 4-star linebacker who chose the Hoosiers over Iowa. Other programs, Miami, I think, amongst others. He's from Columbus, Ohio. So right in Ohio State's backyard, Henry Ollinger. Columbus Grandview Heights. He's an on 300 linebacker prospect. He committed to Indiana, 4-star recruit. That's not something that Indiana would get every day and hasn't gotten every day. That will continue to increase. Indiana's been great to me for a while now, and Coach Haynes and Coach Cignetti have been great and are great. I think that Indiana is the best place for me to develop as a player and a person under Coach Haynes. Ollinger becomes the number 2 commit for head coach Kurt Cignetti and his staff of the 2026 recruiting class. Ollinger is the number 6 recruit in Ohio, and that's saying something, people. Ohio is a state that produces football talent. He's number 106 in the country. Pretty daggone good piece of land there. Now, I'd sit here and I'd talk about this because it is a great get. But what are the odds he's at Indiana a second year? And it has nothing to do with Indiana. It's because of the era that we live in. What are the odds that he's at Indiana a second year? He's not going to play. I doubt that he's going to even play much his first year. He'll be a freshman. Don't see that a lot in football, especially at the linebacker position. So while it is a great commitment to get, and it shows the staff working hard and getting things done. And let's just hope that they will continue to make it all happen as they have so far through all of this. But like I said, I don't want to, I'm not going to get jacked up on an incoming freshman when, well, there's no reason for me to get jacked up at all, but touting it because I really wonder, as I sit here and think, what are the odds that he'll be at Indiana the next year? Especially if he were to play and did have some success, you know good and damn well he's going to be in the portal. I mean, everybody does to try it. I mean, we have Todd Leary that says you'd be dumb not to try it, just to see what your value is, just to get a gauge. It really stinks that is the case, but not to poo-poo on some great recruiting news. It's big time. And I think it's going to continue to be like that. But Ed, I'm assuming he is referring back to the Nico case. And if that is the case, why on God's green earth would you leave what he left on the table to go for a team that is competitive in the college football playoff to go play for one that is not? Very, very curious. Ed suggesting that Nico got $1.4 million at UCLA. And I did see something that said he got 5 figures less. We'll talk to, that'd be something great to talk to Mike about. He'll be with us on the other side as we hit a break. Appreciate you joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're back with more right after these messages. There you go, people. Let's see. No commercials. I'm tired. Mike, I found myself doing more work editing commercials in and out after the show. So I'm no longer doing commercials during the original show and just going to do it all afterwards.
I thought this was live on some stations, though. Do they?
We're not live on radio. We're live on YouTube as we record it. But luckily, we're not live on any of the stations.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, okay, that's not, I'm doing twice as much work now, it seems like. So I'm like, it'll be easier to edit them all in than edit them out, for depending on who it goes to. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Can't complain, man. Just trying to keep up with all of the portal news now that I think there was I should have saved this, but wasn't there a biblical phrase that says when one portal closes, another one opens?
Something like that, yes.
And that's exactly what I said, or something like that. I put that in the description because that's what it seems like. It's like, oh man, come on. Can we have a break? It's and the little crossover. And I wonder, well, I'll bring this up, but will we see a rush on the basketball side to get into the portal? Last day to get your name in. Man, if you don't know by now, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many more players there are to rush it, I mean,
yeah.
There's just not that many guys left. We are seeing a rush of players who don't have eligibility entering, but I'm not sure what that means. I should hope that none of the efforts to add a year of eligibility are successful. There's got to be a point somewhere. I mean, otherwise, like, why wouldn't I be able to stay in high school forever?
Yep. Well,
I mean,
I talked about this yesterday. It's like, wait a minute. It's like no rules are allowed to be made anymore. because every time a rule is made, oh, well, that's illegal.
Yeah. I mean, this one's kind of fundamental to the nature of college athletics or any scholastic athletics. And I'm serious. I'm like, if I want to live in high school basketball forever, why wouldn't I be able to do that if you're going to wipe out all these rules? I mean, and continue to dominate like 14-year-olds. I mean, why can't I do that?
Like the most recent thing with the JUCO thing, I do not get how a court can say, well, that's not right. You can't bar people from playing because they played. Why not? It's our freaking system. Why can we not do what we want to do?
Well, I mean, but to pretend that junior college is not the same as college, okay, so then here's the deal. If you want to play for 4 years of college, then all the college credits that you earned in junior college don't count either, because you're saying it's not college. It's a ridiculous construct that court, whoever the judge was that came out with that one, there was no defense for that. It was absolutely indefensible. And I don't care what legal stuff you pull off the shelf, it's indefensible logistically.
All right, we're going to be back here. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday, joined now by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, and plenty going on right now because you have both transfer portals open at the moment. The college basketball portal closes today. The football portal opened just a few days ago. And I jokingly said in the break to Mike that there's a biblical phrase or something that says when one portal opens, another shall, or when one portal closes, another shall open. And that seems to be how it has been. And man, oh man, is this a highway, an interstate of, it's like the LA freeway is what it's like. The LA freeway system. It's just full of cars, people just going in all different directions. It's craziness. I don't know that they'll ever, I guess never, don't ever say ever, but boy, it seems like it's getting further away than coming back to having some regulations, some guardrails on it.
Well, I don't think we are closer to there being some sort of rules because we can't possibly be farther away. I mean, every day that passes, you're closer to the possibility of there being rules instituted, and some of that will depend on eventually colleges and athletes deciding whether or not this is the way they want to move forward. I think the House settlement, if it gets approved, will have a significant impact on this, because at least in the short term, because remember, once that system is approved by the judge, there will be a window of time, and I don't know how long that window will last, but it will last multiple years, when 2025 NIL will not exist. And what I mean by that is the NIL in which you are basically paid for how well you might play won't exist for a period of time. I think it'll go to court and I think they'll lose, but that period of time, whether it's 2 or 4 years or whatever the time frame, depending on, maybe there will be it'll be shorter if they can get an injunction. It'll be longer if they have to get it. They have to take it all the way to a decision. But it will exist, and I believe that at minimum it will consist of multiple years. So once the House settlement goes into place, now everything that's happening now is happening in the way that it's happening and at the pace that it's happening to get in under the wire before the House settlement is approved. Teams that have money, Kentucky, BYU, etc. I'm talking basketball, obviously, want to get this done because they want to use their advantage, which exists now and will not exist when the House settlement is approved. They still might have advantages, but not the nature of the current advantage, which is they have lots of 2025 NIL money that they can spend in order to attract players like Aberdeen, who just became a Kentucky Wildcat yesterday. Doesn't even have his championship ring yet, but now he's going to be a Kentucky Wildcat. Okay, because they had the money. Well, House settlement comes in, that goes away. At that point, the only NIL that exists, first of all, you are paid out of that $20.5 million, whatever they can squeeze out of that for you as an incoming transfer or high school recruit. You'll get paid for that, and then you'll get paid for whatever endorsements and signing appearances or whatever else you do, and it will happen at market value, which means that Cooper Flagg won't be paid more. Well, I don't think he is now, but if the next Cooper Flagg does an Allstate commercial or Gatorade or AT&T or whatever, if he does a commercial, he'll get paid what Cooper Flagg would get paid, or what Chris Paul would get paid, or whatever. He won't get paid because because there's a demand to get him to Duke. So he'll get paid for that. And like you take it down to a lower level, and it'll be like the star quarterback that you want to keep. Okay, so maybe the local car dealer that's always been invested in the football program will use that player to come sign at his dealerships, or to do a car ad or a billboard or something like that. But you won't be paid like $2 million to do that, because nobody gets paid $2 million to do that. For a local car dealership, nobody does. I mean, like Matt Damon's probably getting a whole bunch of money to do these Stella Artois ads with David Beckham, and David's getting a whole bunch of money, but they're not getting $2 million to do a local car ad so that good old State U can keep their star quarterback. That's not happening. So everything's going to change if and when that house settlement gets signed by the judge. So what we're seeing now is the last vestiges of this Wild West era. And once the house settlement comes into place, it'll change. And then probably what emerges on the other side will be more oriented toward an organized system. I don't think it'll be the 20.5 million plus regular NIL in, I don't know, let's say 2030, but it won't be this. It won't be what we've seen over the last 6 or 7 years. People who are being hysterical about this now aren't paying attention to what's coming down the road.
And the house settlement, a big part of that, obviously, that you talked about. And then yesterday, the NCAA Board of Directors, Division I Board of Directors, proposed deleting 153 longstanding rules from its handbook. Well, that must, what was that, a couple pages out of it? That would allow schools to start sharing financial benefits directly with players, which the house settlement is not doing that per se, because way I understand it, aren't the conferences, they're doing it through the conferences.
No, I don't think so. No,
it wasn't directly coming from the school. I mean, it's coming from the school money.
Each school has 20 points. Each school has the ability to spend, to share 20.5 under the current house settlement guidelines.
Right, but I thought that how it was being distributed was through a third party, so they could avoid.
No, I think the third party, Jim, is what will govern NIL. That's the no. If I'm a quarterback, we're really stretching there, because I used to be a point guard. Now I'm a quarterback. If I'm a quarterback coming out of high school, say, and I'm like the next Arch Manning, okay, I'm going to get paid by the school that I sign with. They will offer me X number of dollars out of that 20.5 million, whatever chunk they want to carve out to pay me. That it'll come from them. Out of that revenue sharing. The money to do that will come from the conferences, a lot of it, because all television and playoff and NCAA tournament money gets filtered through the conference, comes back to the school. But then the tickets that my school sells, they don't do that. I mean, the tickets and the donations and all that stuff, that all is institutional. So the money's going to come from them. Now, what will be policed by a third party, one of the big accounting firms, is 2020 is house settlement NIL. Let's call it that, and that is what I described before. The the local endorsement, the state endorsement, the card signings, the card deals, the trading card deals that lots of athletes get, money that you make through your own Instagram or whatever you might do. Those dollars will all be looked at by a third party to make sure that 2025 NIL isn't a part of it. So that's the difference.
And then there are schools that will choose not to participate in the House settlement. The Ivy League itself has chosen not to do that. Why would they choose not to do that? Because they can't compete financially with, well, not that they can't. They don't want to compete financially, probably in athletics with the Ohio States and of the world and whatnot.
I think it's more their philosophy, like that they've never given athletic scholarships because they don't believe in that, supposedly, although it's never really been 100% true that doesn't happen. I mean, lots of athletes get money because they're athletes at various institutions that are members of the Ivy League. So, it's a cosmetic thing. They like to stand above the fray there, whatever. But I don't know what that. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what impact that has on their responsibility to share in the payout to the athletes, to the class, the house class. I don't know how that impacts their if they're not participating in terms of the revenue share and all that. I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that, whether or not they have to participate in the compensation, because one of the things that is not talked about at all in regards to the House settlement, I wrote about it the day that the House settlement was, at the time that the House settlement was first approved, or first came to fruition before it was sent back into the hopper for revisions. I wrote that one of the benefits of the House settlement is that because of the way the payout to the class is structured, that it basically assures the NCAA tournament will exist as it does now for the next 10 years. Because all of the conferences that are complaining that they have to pay, even though they didn't have a lot of the affected athletes, are missing out, are getting that, are basically the way the settlement is structured. The money to pay that will come from NCAA tournament revenues, which increased in 2025 as the contract rolled over. It's now $1.1 billion, I believe. So their money to pay the class will come out of that. And so you can't say you got to pay out of that and then say there is no that. Like the big conferences can't say we're just going to go stage our own tournament, and meanwhile you guys keep paying out of that, because there won't be that. If the big schools somehow tried to decide to stage their own tournament, that money would no longer exist. So they can't do that for a decade now, or 9 years maybe now, but basically for a decade. And I think that's wonderful, because you know how I feel about the NCAA tournament.
You've kind of already answered this, and then now I lost it. But Philip was asking, the problem is who determines. There we go. Problem is who determines fair market value, and once that happens, it will be challenged in court, saying how can someone else determine what's market value? Market value can differ greatly depending upon who the person is, what their social media reach is, or popularity, et cetera, et cetera. That's with all the things that have been challenged in court. I'm like, well, how is this not beatable? How can you determine that I'm worth this and he's worth the same as me?
Well, that's exactly right. And that's what I talked about. It will be challenged. I have no doubt. But there will be a period of time when it'll exist before it can be challenged. And as I said, there may be some effort to get an injunction, which would mean that period of time would probably only cover 1 year. But if they can't get an injunction and have to go to the conclusion of the case, it could be multiple years. Who determines fair market value is the auditing firm Deloitte. They have the contract. They've been hired to assess fair market value on NIL. As I said, it's not like they're just guessing. They're hiring people who have expertise in that area, and so I'm not sitting here defending the concept, but that's how it's going to work, and it will once the settlement is signed. Or I don't know. When I say signed, I don't know what the actual legal language
Agreement
is. But
to,
once it is,
whatever, yeah.
once it's approved, once it's confirmed, it will be in place for the next academic year, which at this point would be 26-27, and that's how 26-27 will be contested. And so what we're seeing in the transfer portal this year is the last efforts of this particular era. It will not be the same a year from now as long as House gets approved. It won't be like this because you won't have the ability to sign those kinds of deals. Like Nico Imaleva signed for less money than he got at Tennessee.
That was going to be a subject in the next segment. I could not wait to bring that up because he'll come to Bloomington October 25th to play Indiana. So yeah, definitely was going to bring that up because of that very reason.
But he won't be able. But the point I was going to make is using him because he did move. He won't be in position to do that a year from now because the money won't be there. It might still be hanging around, but it won't be available to be spent in that way, or whatever money you believe Aberdeen got from Kentucky, or PJ Haggerty, the second-team All-American for Memphis, reportedly asking for $4 million. Like that money's not going to be there. They're just not going to be anybody that can afford that.
Well, but can't the bigger teams that have supporters find NIL programs for these players? Hey, we're going to get you set up with this and you set up with this.
100% they can do that, but it won't be the same. It won't be anywhere near the same dollar figure. And therefore it might not be worth it for PJ Haggerty to leave a place like Memphis where they have that. I mean, they have a really good business community in Memphis that's very supportive of the Tigers. They may not have the level of donorship that provides $4.5 million, which is what he's asking for, 4 or 4.5. That they may not have that, but they have a robust business community. So do you go to all the trouble of leaving a place where you've been a second-team All-American so that you can make an extra $100,000? I'm not sure, Jim. I don't think that'll happen as much.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see once the House settlement is approved, that who does it impact really? Who does it help or hurt? Does it have any effect on the big players, the Ohio States or Alabamas and all of those types in football? Or does it help the Indianas, the Purdue's, the mid-level, the smaller big level teams? They're still major P4 teams, but so is it going to equal things out? I still don't think that's going to be equal because of the ability to bring in, quote, NIL money.
Even if you factor out NIL, I mean, when nobody was technically allowed to pay anything, so to speak,
technically,
but let's assume that for the most part that was the case at most colleges. People still gravitated to Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, that had options. I mean, that's unless there was a local tie or a family tie, they still gravitated toward those schools because that's where the biggest stage is. That's where the other great players mostly went. So you are more likely to be on championship teams, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think that once you balance out the money to an extent, I think it empowers the empowered because they already have those advantages. I think that if you're an Indiana, you have to continue to make those really sharp, sound judgments to be as competitive as the Hoosiers were this past fall. because they found Curtis Rourke and they found a really good roster, and they had some veteran players who'd been around for a while, and they hired a dynamic coach who knew how to utilize all that. It's still going to be about making sounder, smarter decisions in that era. It's just you're going to have less for a time. You're going to have less of this rampant movement because there's so much money available at particular places.
That will be a good thing to see. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News is with us here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Oh, it's so wonderful not to have to mess with that. I say that now, and then afterwards, when I've got to do it all, I'm like, oh, that was stupid. I need to go back to the old way. No, I'm just kidding. Oh man, I am looking forward to less movement. I don't understand. I'll talk about Liava, however you say his name, but what was going on with that dude? I mean, you just left $1 million freaking dollars on the table. $1 million.
I think it's only a half, but because
if he got 2 point, he was supposed to get, or he was offered 2.2, I believe, is what the deal at Tennessee was.
Okay.
And
he's going to get like 1.5 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So almost. But you don't do what they did. It's just the word I used, and it wasn't the most eloquent word choice I ever did, but the word choice I used in my column was dumb. It was just dumb. What they did was dumb on every level. And we could talk about that when.
Are you talking about the Liava camp?
Yes. Yeah, what they did was dumb on every level. It just blows me away that you would do. I mean, look, we've all seen guys make decisions that we knew were not going to turn out well in terms of like NBA draft entry and that sort of thing. But a lot of those bad decisions relative to draft entry and that sort of thing were made out of more or less desperation. Because they couldn't make any money where they were, and now they could, and presumably they could make money at the professional level, if not in the NBA, then overseas or whatever. But that's not a factor now. So you're making $2 million a year in a circumstance that's set up for you to succeed in a situation that has produced multiple NFL quarterbacks. I don't want to spend all our good resources on the commercial break, but
there we go. Let's bring her back in. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Jim Coyle with you as always, joined by our good friend Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks, talking a lot about NIL, the House settlement. It's going to be approved any moment now. Actually, just kidding. They've been saying that for a while. So whenever that happens, but now talking more in a smaller area about it, the Big Ten, Indiana, the Purdue's, those kinds of schools. I just saw that we've been talking a lot about the Nico Iamaleava case where he leaves Tennessee after being offered and to what I understood, accepted the NIL agreement that they had for like 2.2 million. Then they try to drain them for more. And Josh Heupel, I did read an article yesterday though that says, oh yeah, they took a stand and said that's going to be so great. Tennessee Vols, their fans are behind him until they lose, and then it's like, what the hell's wrong with you? What are you doing? But
I don't think they'll second guess the decision on Nico. I think that they are behind that concept. I think that Tennessee's white knight circumstance, that the idea that they're somehow superior has been diminished by their decision to go into the portal and find a quarterback in the same way. So they're now the same as whoever else was out there shopping for a quarterback in the spring. They're the same. It's not, they're not superior in this, but they were right. They were correct. They shouldn't have had to pay more for Nico just because somebody else at some other school got more money. That's nonsense. You don't get I don't get a raise every time Jeff Goodman gets a raise or whatever. I don't know. I mean, that's ridiculous. You can't operate that way. And so the way this was done by the family and by the representation was so foolish. It was just because what we're talking about, Jim, is not just what you're going to make next year. First of all, he's going to, by all reports, he's going to make less money in his new circumstance than he was before. And then you add on the fact that Tennessee had no state income tax, and California, of course, has significant state income tax. There's that. But more so, there's the fact that what you're playing toward is the NFL. And at that position, Jim, it is so lucrative. Like if you make it big, and we'll just use that as an example. If you make it big, you can become almost a billionaire playing that position. Okay. Like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and those guys, like they're making absurd, ridiculous cartoon money. But let's not even go there. Let's just go to somebody that's in the league and hangs around the league because he's really smart. Josh Dobbs is an absolutely brilliant person, and because he does the right things. He does the job he's asked to do. He's a good guy to have in your locker room. In a pinch when you need him to play, he's going to play well. Josh Dobbs signed for 2 years, $8 million. That's $4 million a year. During a period, which if things go right in New England, he'll never touch the ball in a real game. Like they're not signing him because they're hopeful he'll play. They're signing him hopeful he'll never play. But they're still going to give him $4 million a year to do it. That's a job you want. That's a job you work toward, and you work toward that by being a person that people want to work with. Somebody who doesn't show up for this last day of spring practice and the spring game is not a quarterback that teams will be excited about dealing with, unless your talent is so overwhelming that they can't help it. Say Aaron Rodgers. He's doing the exact wrong thing to secure a significant future in the NFL for him. And when you think about the kind of money Josh Dobbs has made over the course of his career, he's probably going to make north of $50 million and to have never really been a full-time starting quarterback. I pointed out in the article that I wrote last week about Nico's decision that Kyle Allen played for the Steelers last year and was paid $1.9 million, Jim, to be their number 3 quarterback. $1.9 million. He threw one pass in the entire season. It was a first down. He completed for like 20 yards. It was a first down, but he made $1.9 million to do that. You do not mess with that in the hopes that you might get an extra $500,000 or $1 million in college. You don't mess with the progress toward that by doing what Nico and his representation did. That was just like I said before the break, the best word to use to describe it, not the most eloquent word choice, dumb. It's just dumb. You don't do that. You're trying to build toward the future, not trying to squeeze an extra nickel out of the people you're playing for now. That's just not even remotely smart.
When it comes to NIL, there was something out the other day. I forget who wrote it. I think it may have been in The Athletic. I don't want to misquote it, but it listed the 10 programs that were in the golden tier, NIL golden tier for basketball. Indiana, one of those 10, of course, we already knew that, but they were one of the few that were not successful, at least in what I would call successful comparisons to the other teams that were in that list. Now, but what I also noticed, not on that list was Houston. Not on that list was Florida. Not on that list was Duke was, but I'm drawing Auburn. None of those three teams were on that list. But boy, oh boy, they looked pretty good at playing that game without being in the top 10 of NIL. So Indiana just still has to get its house in order, which they've got a new coach right now. Of course, they're going through all of that. They're slowly building their roster back. And we talk about this house settlement. Basketball, this is mainly towards football. Football is going to get 75% roughly of that money, of whatever that money ends up being. So I don't know how much will this really affect basketball, to be honest with you, because if Indiana is already, hell, they have as much money in NIL money then as more than they'll get from the house settlement.
Well, I mean, everybody, like I said before, everybody will have more money available to them for 2015 NIL than they will for house revenue sharing. That because the figure now is basically unlimited. There's no governor on how much you can spend if you can raise the money. If you're an elite football program, you can get however many players you want to get at whatever rate you want to get them, as long as you can raise the money to pay them. And that will not be the case once the house settlement is in place. Now, when you said that it will affect football more, that's an individual school decision. Like, that's
true.
If you decide, I don't know, let's just use.
And there are programs schools that don't even have football, like the Big East schools.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I was talking at the
right
power football level. Like, if you're a school like in Arizona, and your brand has always been hoops, and your football has always been, let's try to be as good as we can and not embarrass ourselves, then you might decide to spend more money on basketball than the competition, and allow and try to have your football team just be efficient. You might. I'm not saying they will. I have no idea what they'll do. But then the secondary thing is the schools like the Big East and anyone else that wants to participate. I mean, the Atlantic 10, if they can raise the funds, Mountain West, although they do have football, but especially the non-football playing teams in the Atlantic 10 and the Big East and some of the other major leagues that don't have football, they can, like the Big East is the most obvious. They can spend whatever they want on basketball, whatever money they have. They don't have as much money available generally because they don't generate the football revenue. And remember, it's revenue share. It's not like, necessarily you can spend it if you don't have it. You have to have it, I believe, to spend it. I don't know all the legal details of the house settlement to that.
That's extent. Not according to the U.S. government. That's not true.
But I mean, I think that when they say revenue share, just because everybody can do 20.5 million, because everybody that has a football program is generating that, I don't know whether that's the case if you don't generate that. So I'm not positive, but they will be able to, no doubt, spend more on their basketball programs because they don't have football. And that's something that they're looking forward to.
What is up next for you?
Gosh, the NFL draft is this week, and we're monitoring all of that. Looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. Where will Shedeur Sanders end up? That's a interesting draft question. How early does Ashton Jeanty go off the board? People are talking about him as a back that at the level of a Walter Payton. I'm not sure I see that. I'm not sure. That seems a lot, but I have seen that written in various places this week as we get ready for the draft.
I've seen Ashton Jeanty. I don't know him, but I sure saw Walter Payton. Didn't know him, but I know what he could do. He was a bad man.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure I see that either. I think he's a really good back, Ashton. I think he's terrific, but I don't.
A lot of
Walter Payton
pressure
really-
on him, really, because he played that card of the underdog, but he's got that running back size, man. It reminds me of who was the running back in the day for the Giants? Little guy. Oh,
Tiki
man.
Barber.
No, a smaller guy. He was back in that era of Bill Parcells and all. I cannot think of his name. He was a small guy, but he was scat back. Call him like a scat back, man. But Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you, brother. Looking forward to it. Hope you had a happy Easter and all that's good things.
Yeah, it was great. Absolutely. We will see you next week, Tuesday at 9 a.m.
Looking forward to it, sir. Make sure you give Mike a follow. If you're not already, go to the Sporting News. Make sure you're following his content because it is top-notch. Appreciate you, sir. We have got more coming up here on the program. Tom Dinhardt is going to join us later on from Gold and Black on Purdue's On 3 outlet. Talk about a great pickup they had, the portal going on right now in football, Indiana. What's a commitment? And we'll see where we're going from there. How does this, we'll talk about this Yama Liava story a little bit more as well as we'll see if Purdue plays, I'll have to pull it up to see if Purdue plays UCLA. And I know that Indiana does, as I mentioned. They'll be coming to Bloomington October 25th. More coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with it all after these messages. Aren't y'all lucky you don't have to listen to commercials now? Holy moly. I'm probably going to wish I hadn't done that, but we'll see. No, he's definitely not Sweetness. Definitely. Shinty to Oakland. Maybe, probably. Oh. And if you're listening to this version, after we have completed it, you can just jump ahead to around the 53-minute mark where things will pick back up, just an FYI. Hey, for those of you listening too, though, go to thehoosier.com, subscribe, man. Those guys at thehoosier.com doing a tremendous job pumping out content every day. And I mean every day. Basketball, football, both sides. Thehoosier.com now with On 3. We will have Steve Wiltfong from the On 3 with us later this week. And here we go. Almost. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along for the ride. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always. Tom Dinhardt he'll join us in the next segment, I believe, we'll talk more Big Ten football, the transfer portal open right now for college football. Who's getting what? Indiana has landed a couple of guys, one out of the portal. Obviously, they've gotten a huge commitment from four-star linebacker Henry Ollinger as he gave his pledge to the Hoosiers yesterday. He chose Indiana over Boston College, Iowa, Miami, Rutgers, Virginia. Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator, the lead recruiter pretty much on that. And just always a great get. But I mentioned earlier, you want to build your program, build a program. And that means having the bases, having a good recruiting base. But as we start to continue to morph in this sport, how important is having freshmen in your program? Seriously. And I hate to say that for the sake of the freshmen, but I'm not suggesting it. I'm just asking the questions because it's there. What is the importance of having a freshman in your program when you have to guess and wonder, will they even be here next year? That's all the effort think about all the effort that goes in to recruiting freshmen, recruiting the high schools. I can see and understand why a program would say, you know what, to hell with it. We're not recruiting high school anymore. The odds of those guys being around are not good. So we've got to recruit the portal. It's got to be a lot easier. Now, you can't have an entire roster full of guys that are expecting to play and are expecting a bigger bag. The bag's got to get smaller, no doubt about that. A baseball umpire. Yeah, so it's obviously, and there's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of facets to the situation. HR, we talked about yesterday, someone suggesting that teams hire HR programs. And then I saw someone ask a question, wasn't that what a GM's for? Yeah, it is. I don't know why a GM just wouldn't spread out that department more so, but it'll be interesting to see how this continues to go, how people continue to recruit the bigger programs. Why, unless they are a player, we talk about basketball, Cooper Flagg. That guy is an impact maker. Obviously, he's an NBA first-round draft pick. But that doesn't happen in football so much. And then at B, there's the age thing. So they're going to be in college. Whether or not they're going to be at your college is the question. How hard do you want to work at recruiting a player as a freshman, then having to re-recruit them, which you've got to recruit people regardless? I'm just curious, and it would be I would love to hear a coach's answer is, you know what, at what point does recruiting the freshmen become not as important? Because none of them have played at a college level. None of them have the understanding of what it's really going to take to play at a college level. Why would it not be better to go recruit sophomores off of Kent State or Old Dominion or, whomever, App State? Why would it not be better to just do that? That way you're bringing in some experience. These guys can all play. That way you wouldn't have guys that are not really ready to play. What if you had a roster of guys that were potentially all productive at some level? There's just a lot of thoughts that are going to go into recruiting. And a lot of people are going to have different philosophies on it, on how they approach it, on how they approach it for their team, on how they approach it for their program, on how they think it benefits, does not benefit. They have made a lot of changes with the roster sizes and things like that. Russell says they need a size limit for college basketball. Nobody over 7. Okay. I don't know what that's even about. But yeah, it's a curious world. Because, again, you go back to these freshmen and they don't know jack about what it is going to take to play at a P4 level, especially. Most of them are not going to be, unless you're just looking at a certain point, you're just looking at practice players. Is this a way to add depth, to stop recruiting freshmen? Would that be a way to add depth? I'm not suggesting it. I'm just pointing out the possibility as what someone could do, how they could run a program differently. You know, I would not. Now I know that the mid-major guys, it's pointless for. I mean, if they recruit a freshman and he turns out to be good, you know, for a fact he's gone. Now their choices are not as good. They have to recruit more freshmen. They are. I think we'll see if the House settlement has any bearing on it. I don't think it will, but will the mid-majors just become a feeder system for power football programs, P4 programs, not just in football, all the way around? And is there anything wrong with that, to be honest with you? I'm not picking on Miami of Ohio, Toledo. These teams are not going to win any kind of national championship in Division I football. They're not going to go to the Rose Bowl. So is that a big problem, to be honest with you, anyway? Some people are going to say, well, yeah, we've seen a lot of statements here in the last few days from Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer talking about the state of things. Both Hall of Famers, national championship coaches. But it's not the same game. Spurrier says it's not even a fair game anymore. Was it really fair before? Are you kidding me? Auburn, Alabama, teams like that cheating their ass off? Come on, man. Is it really any different? I mean, seriously, is it really that different? There are some differences. You're not going to see Central Florida was an example that Steve Spurrier used, that, you know, they've got no chance to compete. Well, they had a little bit of a chance before, but not really, if you want to come down to it. They got to the point to where they could beat a mid-level Power 4 team, but that's probably the extent that would ever have gotten to. It's not what people want to see. They want to see the names, man. They want to see the good teams. I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying this is how it is. This is where it's heading. Life changes, man. It didn't always change the way we wanted to, the way we would like for it to, but it changes. Now, can they do something to get a handle on this so it doesn't go too far? And most people would say, well, it's already gone too far. Well, it's gone so far, so fast is the issue. That is the thing. And as far as getting a salary cap, I know a lot of people talk about that. Well, you're going to have collective bargaining. You're going to have agreements between all the players. And if you think getting a collective bargaining agreement with NFL or Major League Baseball or NBA players is something, does not compare to, say, NCAA football. How many Division I football programs are there? Multiply that by 85 players, 105, whatever the number is now. NFL rosters are 57, I think. How many NFL teams are there? Like 36? So you've got 36 times 57 players that come into an agreement. What was that, 1,500, 1,600? I don't know. I do know it's a hell of a lot more than 100 times the number of Division I football programs. Lots more. To get them all to agree with all the different agents that all have their hands in there. And I wonder, are the agents causing some of these problems, like the Yama case? Man, I forget who made that comment earlier. That was funny. I didn't get to mention that. Nico I'm leaving is what the nickname someone gave him on the hotline, and daggone it, I meant to bring that up and let it slip by, but that was funny. Nico I'm leaving. I like that. That's pretty good. Not bad at all. Not bad, but what a dumb move. Now, is that because of his agent? If it is, I'd be suing his ass. I'm like, dude, you just cost me $750,000 off the table alone, much less, like Mike pointed out, no state income tax, massive versus massive state income tax from California on a lesser amount. So even less again. I mean, I'll bet you this cost this dude $1 million. $1 million. How the hell is that agent saying, hey, we did the right thing? You did the right thing. You're an idiot is what you are. Give that money to me, baby. Give it to me. I mentioned the Hubers event for Indiana fans, May 28th, coming up. May is a busy month. The Kentucky Derby on Saturday, May 3rd. Kylie's birthday's in May. Kylie's graduation's in May. The Indianapolis 500 is in May. The Hubers event is in May. Woo! Lots going on in May. May flowers from the April showers. And we definitely have had some of those. Indiana basketball, Jason Drake from Drexel on a visit yesterday. We'll have more on that tomorrow and the rest of the week as Indiana basketball still looking to fill out its lineup. They're needing some bigs, baby. They need some bigs. They, was it Reed? He's the power forward. That's the biggest guy they have right now. And then does it go to Tucker DeVries from there, who's kind of a wing, 2-3 wing, which they're going to need to pick up 2 more, what I would call bigs. And the rest are going to be wings because the dude from Drexel, Drake, he's a guard, another guard. Indiana's going to be guard heavy, but giving you more and more of an idea of what Darren DeVries' offense is going to look like. Getting up and down, shooting the ball. But when they're going to start landing some bigs, I guarantee, is the question on a lot of Indiana fans' minds. We'll talk to Alec Lasley this week and a complete wrap up on where that is. Well, the portal closes today in college basketball. The portal is not over for college basketball. This is just the last day you can enter your name in it. And I wondered, well, will we see a late rush? Mike pointed out, Mike DeCourcy, well, who the hell's left to be a rush? There's some out there, but the guys that are leaving are probably in there. Not to say you won't see a few, but I'd say most of the names are in there. Boy, how would you like to be a coach and have one of your guys enter on the last day? That would just grind you a little bit. Grind you. Football portal closes this Friday, as a matter of fact, so they'll both be closed finally, but doesn't matter. Once you're in, you're in. And you can make your change at any point up until you can get into school. Indiana missed out on Elijah Freeman, one of the bigs that they were chasing at. We'll talk more about that with Alec as well as they continue their quest. We've got lots more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We'll talk Big Ten action with Tom Dinhardt from Golden Black, Purdue's On-3 outlet. On the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, we're back with more right after this break.
Hello.
Good day, Tom. How are you, brother?
Good.
What's new, man?
Not much. Just trying to stay on top of all this portal stuff. It's crazy.
I've heard about that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, good luck with that.
So you're running the IU site for On3?
The publisher, yes, sir.
Nice. Where are you based out of?
I am in Bloomington.
Okay, well, that makes sense, right?
Yes, sir. As Alec Lasley is the associate editor, associate publisher. He does most of the legwork on that side of things.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm doing it. It's On3 is a great people to be associated with, as you know.
Yeah. We went down there in February, met a lot of people, and they had a little, I guess, a seminar, went over some things, and it was good to meet people and learn some things down there.
Yeah, I look forward to it. We haven't had that opportunity yet. Everything was going on, of course, and still is.
Yeah.
Busy time, man.
Now I use a football school, right?
They are for the moment. That's for damn sure. They have not been a basketball school.
I give him credit, man. Kurt Signetti done a nice job.
That's lightning in a bottle, man.
They're going to be ranked this year, I think, too.
Well, they should be. I think that they're actually going to be a better team.
Really?
Yeah, I think the offense is going to be just a little better. Even Fernando Mendoza is. I hate after Curtis Rourke's year. You hate to say anything, but that this guy can be better. It's not about being better. I think the offense will be better. I think that the offensive line improvements, enhancements were huge. As long as they fill in, they just got a commitment for the defensive line. They need a few more there, and then they'll be right back to where they were, I believe. But Purdue got a big one. But we're ready to go here if you are.
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always. Tom Dinhardt from Golden Black, the On3 outlet for Purdue, joining me as well as the Big Ten. Lots of action going on in the Big Ten, and the biggest thing has not had anything to do with either Indiana or Purdue with this Nico Iamaleava deal with leaving Tennessee, going to UCLA of all places. The ironic thing to me is this guy is bitching and moaning about wanting more than what he already agreed to in NIL. Then he goes to a program that has been known to have nothing but NIL problems.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know how that worked out for him.
Yeah, I think he probably has a little bit of buyer's remorse. They say his father is kind of manipulating things behind the scenes. And, I guess you try to get what you can, right? And I think maybe he overestimated his value, right? And more importantly, though, Jim, he left a pretty good situation at Tennessee, right? A playoff program that's endowed with a lot of money, a lot of NIL funds, to go back home. He's a Southern California kid. I think he went to Long Beach Poly and go back home, but still the money can't be anywhere close to what he was making in Tennessee. And the program itself, UCLA, is nowhere near on the par of a Tennessee. So, yeah, just sort of a cautionary tale for a lot of people out there, right?
Yeah, you would, some things like this are going to happen, but not at this level. I'm like, how even me, as dumb as I am, I'm like, you understand you're at Tennessee and that they are a CFP team, right? And UCLA kind of started Indiana's CFP run last year.
Right.
They're down below, and I just don't understand. And then when you mention uh, potentially the father getting involved, that says a lot, because then you get people who don't know what they're doing. And worse is somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, but they think they do. And boy, oh boy, did he step in a pile, because from what I understand, it was a 7-figure reduction in what he was already getting at Tennessee, which reportedly was $2.2 million. And so, yeah, well, you get what you deserve, I guess, in that deal.
Yeah, the thing about Nico too is he was okay. It's not like he was Peyton Manning or some, All-American quarterback. If that was the case, if he was truly one of the elite guys like a Cam Ward or a Shadur Sanders, I think Tennessee probably would have stepped up and written that check.
Right.
So Nico, again, overvalued himself, and he was solid. I heard some people talking yesterday. I think he had 19 touchdown passes, 10 of those from the non-conference. So he only had 9 against SEC opponents. So again, he was good, but he was still pretty much a work in progress. And he was not a quarterback of the ilk I think he thought he was, especially from a financial standpoint. So, yeah, again, like I said, a guy who shot from the moon, overvalued himself, and finds himself a little lighter on the wallet now, right, Jim?
Absolutely. And Mike DeCourcy, who's on with me Tuesday or earlier, pointed out Tennessee has no state income tax.
Yeah.
California, massive state income tax. How much money did whomever is running this situation just cost them a boatload of money?
Yeah, I mean, again, too, to leave Tennessee, too. We talked about them being a playoff team last year, of course, right? But the offense and the head coach, Josh Heupel, a former quarterback at Oklahoma, an offense where you think a young quarterback could really develop and mature and become maybe an elite passer. And Nico walked away from that to go to a program you mentioned last year, sort of jump-started IU early. Hoosiers went out there and won in Pasadena, a program in UCLA that's still nowhere near on par with what UCLA is with a young head coach and Deshaun Foster. For Nico to walk away from that situation developmentally and monetarily from Knoxville is a real head scratcher. And like I said, a cautionary tale. And this may be one of those seminal moments in this whole NIL era that we all look back on and remember as being a watershed event that maybe caused people to think a different way.
Absolutely. The House settlement is or is not close to being settled. That's just a joke, because we keep hearing it's close to settlement. But regardless of that, Indiana, Purdue, schools like that, they're very similar in size.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the biggest schools in the Big Ten, both in the 40,000 student range versus, what's at Penn State and Wisconsin, where they have like 300 million students at those schools. No, all joking aside, but it's almost double. But not just that, the stadium sizes, Michigan probably makes $6 million a game. Mm-hmm. Indiana probably makes that a season. If you want, you've got this little 50,000 seat stadium. Purdue's up to 60,000 now.
On there, yeah.
These are not big stadiums, so they're not generating that income that some of these other schools are. But with this House settlement coming, how much equality do you think that will offer Indiana, Purdue, Iowa, even? Which Iowa doesn't really. They're kind of in their own different class, but
then the revenue share is going to start July 1st. And I think the figures $22 million schools will have to distribute to their athletes. Then it's up to the schools to decide how to divvy that money up among its sports, right? And you're free to do what you want. Some people think football may get upwards of 65, maybe 70% of that money. 15 million of the 21 or 22 could go to football programs at a lot of these schools. And of course, men's basketball is going to gobble a big chunk of that too. And so that's going to be interesting to see how schools prioritize their sports and where they devote most of their resources. Again, I think we know football is going to be the sport that gets the bulk of it. And And it's supposed to level the playing field, Jim. But
At Purdue, what is the expectation for them to do at Purdue? Is I know at Indiana, I will say that I think that their football will get probably 70 to 75% of this without question, as it should, because that's where the money is coming from. Yeah. And I get it. Purdue, I'm going to assume they're going to do the same thing because they have a proud program that has had a hell of a lot more success in the past than Indiana football has had, but they're not there right now, and they want to get back there. So I'm going to assume they're going to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think their revenue share allotment toward football is probably going to be pretty similar, I would think, to most of these schools. And like I said, maybe 14 to 15 million of that will go to football. And yeah, you're right. It's there are peer programs, but I think the one difference in a lot of these programs could be the supplemental NIL money, the collectives. I think that's where you could really see the differentiation between schools like Purdue and Indiana and then the Ohio States and the Michigans and the Penn States of the world. They're going to be able to go above and beyond just what they get from revenue share distribution money to give these athletes. They're going to be able to go out and get real NIL for these guys. That's going to take, I think, the money they spend on football to a whole nother level. But hey, Jim, I'll tell you what, right now, the spring portal window for Purdue, some of the players they're getting leads us to think that they've got money to spend here. I'm sure they're already trying to commit some of their revenue share money, but they seem to be stepping up their game and getting a higher caliber athlete out of the portal during this April window here.
Well, speaking of which, I love his name. It reminds me of Tropic Thunder, the movie, but Nitro Tuggle commits to Purdue, baby. I would love to be the radio guy. Who's the quarterback or expected quarterback?
Ryan Brown.
Brown to Nitro Tuggle down the left sideline. I can hear it right now all day. What a name built to have it called in any sport, but especially football. Nitro Tuggle.
Nitro is like a superhero, isn't it?
I'm telling you, what a great get for a program that let's be honest, they stunk last year. It just wasn't going where they needed to do. Purdue made changes. Hey, this is not going to work. So they made a change. But to be able to get this kind of recruit, it's huge, I think.
Yeah. He's an Indiana kid from the northern part of the state, Northwood High School up near Napanee, Indiana. So Purdue recruited him coming out of high school. Of course, he was of the ilk where he had bigger aspirations and landed at Georgia. And Purdue circles back and gets him on the rebound, right? And then he has a chance to be that alpha wide receiver I think they need. And you mentioned Ryan Brown. That's maybe been one of the bigger stories this spring for Purdue out of the portal is getting Ryan Brown back. Of course, he was a quarterback here for a couple of years, started a couple of games last year, went in the portal to North Carolina. Now, 5 months later, he's back in West Lafayette, and I know he's pretty excited. So, yeah, Jim, we talk about NIL. You think a wide receiver named Nitro Tuggle, that would engender itself to some pretty interesting NIL opportunities for some creative people out there, right?
Oh, my gosh. I wasn't even thinking about that. But as soon as you said that, holy cow. To see car dealerships, gas dealerships. Yeah. I could just, go on. Just give me about 10 minutes when we get off here. I could come up with about 10 things real quick. You know what? That would be great, but no thank you, because I don't want to end up in a situation, which I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be that stupid, that Mr. Nico Ialieva, whatever the heck is, one of our listeners gave him a great nickname earlier, called him Nico I'm a leaving.
I like that. That's good.
I loved it. It was a great one. So good one there. But so Purdue makes a coaching change. Indiana is not that far away from that. Indiana, one of the worst college football programs in the history of college football, Division I. No question. They had so many losses. They just couldn't, but they didn't, the school never cared about football, if we're honest. Indiana actually had a competitive football program in the Big Ten up through the 60s, late 60s, when they went to the Rose Bowl. Then they had an issue, something that happened. But then the worst thing that happened, Indiana hired Bob Knight as the basketball coach. And all of a sudden, bam, they're in Final Fours. And people are like, football? What's football? Who cares about football? And it was forgotten. while Purdue was having success here and there. I mean, not every year, but, the great quarterbacks that have come through there, gone to some great bowl games. They were bouncing up and down, and now we're in a different era. Indiana makes the great head coaching hire with Curt Cignetti hitting a home run there. Purdue made a change, and you got to give it to Purdue. I love the fact that after 2 years, they realized that this ain't working. And you know what? It ain't going to work, because that's something Indiana basketball should have done 2 different times with their 2 previous coaches, but they waited and put themselves in a position not as good as what they could have been. Purdue says, you know what, man, this ain't working, and this is a ship that's taken off. We got to be on it, or we're going to get left behind. So I completely respect what they've done in that regard. What's the viewpoint been up there for this upcoming season? I know it's got to be tough, but hey, we saw what Curt Cignetti was able to do, and I hate to put that on people because it's kind of a crazy analogy to make, because it's hard to believe. Like I had to say earlier, that 8-4 would be a disappointment for Indiana football this year. And if I would have said that just 2 years ago, I would have deserved to be punched right in the face for the stupidity of that statement. But it's now true. I still might deserve to be punched in the face, but at least the statement is now true. What is Purdue looking at, man?
Yeah, you're right. It just shows you how the script can be flipped that quickly, right? This time last year, nobody saw anything like this coming from Indiana. Maybe a bowl game, but my goodness, a college football playoff bid. Incredible 1-year turnaround. And you're right, going back to your comment about Indiana football historically, the Bill Mallory era, they did have a nice run there from the late 80s and the early 90s there, but by and large, it's sort of been sputtering along since then. And I'll tell you what, Jim, the loss last year in Bloomington, 66-0 to Indiana. That obviously was the nadir, and enough is enough. The white flag went up in West Lafayette. Change had to be made. I really don't think, Jim, deep into November, I really don't think they wanted to make a change.
That loss doesn't happen the way it happened. Does that come?
I don't know. Maybe not. If it's a close loss for Purdue, if somebody upset IU, maybe Ryan Walters is back, because I really don't think they wanted to make a change. It's just not Purdue's MO to get rid of coaches after 2 years, but it got so bad here. You saw it. People watching this saw it. Arguably the worst year in school history. They had to make a change. And, of course, having IU boot stomp your rival on their way to the college football playoff increased the sense of urgency and the need for something to be done now, for action to be taken now. Credit the AD, Mike Bobinski. The page has been turned, Jim. New regime here. Barry Odom, a 180 from Ryan Walters. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see. The spring portal window is going to be the make or break time for Purdue. They've got 10 guys already. I'm told, Jim, that they're going to get upwards of 25 or 28 guys in April, if you can believe it. So there's a lot more guys going to jump on here the next couple of weeks for Purdue. They got 29 portal guys in December, so think about that. The roster next year for Purdue, a 105-man roster, could have close to 60 players who jumped out of the portal to West Lafayette. Over half could be guys. So they're going to have to get these guys all together, chemistry developed quickly. And the schedule's not easy, Jim. They got USC, Michigan, Ohio State. They've got a trip to Notre Dame. They've got Indiana. They've got Illinois. It's a steep hill to climb here in West Lafayette. And if they can just be competitive, scratch out 2 to 4 wins, I think fans for step one would be happy with that.
Yeah, Purdue has, done themselves no favors with the schedule that they have had. Last year, they had Oregon State and Notre Dame in the non-conference season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Notre Dame came here and won 66-7.
Yeah, it's and I get it. It's brave and it's cool to see those games, but man, when you're trying to build your program back, Indiana, well, as much as it kind of sucks, to be honest with you, to watch them play Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State, it's like a preseason playing JV games or something.
Yeah.
But I get it, because then you play Illinois and followed by a trip to Iowa, which is followed by a trip to Oregon. So it gets a lot rougher.
Yeah, but, you have to save your heavy lifting for the conference schedule. There's going to be enough tough games among your 9 conference games there's no need to try to impress anybody, especially if you're Purdue, Indiana. There's no need to try to impress anybody by taking on a heavyweight in the non-conference, right?
Absolutely. And Purdue, one of the teams that are trying to flip the script like Indiana was able to do last year. We'll see the Big Ten itself, how it's going to be. We've got this House settlement looming. Does that level the playing field for, say, Purdue to help them get to where they want to get to quicker?
I think it will. I think it'll keep all those peer institutions, on a pretty level playing field, like Indiana, I think Minnesota, Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan State, those type of programs. I think it'll level the playing field, because everybody's going to be spending pretty much the same amount of money. But again, I think the difference is going to be in those school-specific collectives and the NIL. They're going to be able to maybe continue to give some of these players on top of the revenue share money. Is going to be the real difference. And that keeps the elite, and sort of the middle of the pack, so to speak. So it'll help. There's no doubt about it. And, again, you talked earlier about football in Indiana, football Purdue, and the importance of getting those programs strong, because we all know, Jim, as much as they all love basketball at these schools and in these states, they're basketball schools, right? The real revenue, the real money is still generated by football. Sad but true for basketball fans, but this is still always about football, always going to be about football. It's a bigger sport. Again, it produces more revenue. And basketball is important, but you've got to make sure you have a strong football program if you really want to continue to fund these athletic departments.
Absolutely. And earlier I was talking about from a recruiting standpoint. In this day and age, if I were a coach, I wonder how much time and effort and money I would spend on recruiting freshmen.
Yeah. Because
I'm like, A, what are the odds are going to be on my roster next year? B, I've got to re-recruit this kid anyway.
Yeah.
So unless I really like him, I can go out and find another sophomore who has a year of experience and bring him in. And so I wonder, I would assume there are going to be some coaches who run their programs more off of portal recruiting than high school recruiting, because unless in football, it's hard to find a Cooper Flag. Those guys are fewer and farther between. So I wonder how that's going to affect recruiting for these big time programs.
Well, for schools like Purdue and Indiana, you're never going to get that immediate impact football player usually, right? That guy that's ready-made. Those guys are going to Ohio State and Georgia and USC and Texas. They're not coming to schools like Indiana and Purdue. You're still high school-wise recruiting the developmental player. And like you said, how many of those guys do you want to take on an annual basis when you're going to have to re-recruit them every year, and they could be flight or fight? And how much resources do you want to develop and put in recruiting these guys and retaining them? So, yeah, that's an interesting conundrum for a lot of these staffs to try to weigh. How much portal guys do we want? How many high school guys do we want? And I know Barry Odom has said they still want to make high school recruiting the foundation of the program here. Still going to want to sign upwards of 20 to maybe 25 guys a year from the high school ranks. We'll see if that changes over time. I think that's what they want to do initially here. But like you said, boy, when you can get guys out of the portal that can help you right now, it makes a lot more sense grabbing them than a high school kid who's taking up a roster spot and developing and can't really help you win ball games that fall.
Well, I know a famous line that Kurt Signetti uses is production over potential.
Yeah.
And that, says a lot, because you would rather have a team full of guys that can play now and produce now, as opposed to someone you're looking at in the future. Now, I know, like in quarterbacks, they're always constantly signing a quarterback. Got to have a quarterback for the 25 class. Got to have a quarterback for the 26 class. And I'm like, why? Because, again, what are the odds they're going to be around that long? The kid that transferred to Indiana, he was committed to Ball State and then reopened, decided to go to Indiana. And I'm like, and to me personally, I'm like, I see that as a dumb move. I go, A, you have no chance in hell in playing in Indiana, at least for the next 2 years minimum, with Fernando Mendoza in place. And you are going to be sitting on a sideline, as opposed to if you were at Ball State, maybe you're getting time, maybe you're getting reps, maybe you're getting to play to improve your stock to then transfer to some place like Indiana or Purdue or wherever. So I think that some of these guys are going to have to realize that if they're not looked at as a starter or a potential soon to be starter, maybe their best option is to go to Miami of Ohio or Akron or wherever they want to go.
I think you make a great point. That would be the move. I think if you're a high school player, it would be to go to a lower school like that, a MAC school, or even an FCS school, so you can play, get some tape, get some experience, and then you become a commodity out of the portal for these bigger schools. It makes a lot of sense, Jim. And for Indiana and Purdue, I guess my worry is, I thought about this. Every time a school like Purdue develops a good player, right, it's going to be really tough to keep him. The last couple of years, we've seen the best of Purdue leave. Purdue can't afford to keep him. Nick Scorton left last year. Deion Burks. A litany of players left this last year. Dylan Thieneman went to Oregon. Will Helt went to Clemson. Max Clare went to Ohio State. My question is, can Purdue continue to see their best players leave every year? Because the Sharks are always swimming. There's Sharks above Purdue. There's Sharks above Indiana. We know who those Sharks are. It's tough. And Purdue has been unable to keep the best players every year. Will that change moving forward? I don't know. But again, that to me is always a worry for schools like Indiana and Purdue.
What is Purdue's football NIL? I know basketball they're doing fine, but Purdue or for football that would seem like it would be a tougher sell right now.
I really don't know any specific numbers, but the Boilermaker Alliance is able to come up. I'm led to believe it's solid. It's nothing spectacular. So you're right. It's always a tougher sell. People are more willing to open their wallet for basketball for obvious reasons. They've seen a lot of success there, and they think their money's well spent. Where their football money, you're not. I guess they want to be shown something first, which is natural. So, yeah, again, this is a seminal moment for Purdue football. IU's on the rise, Illinois is on the rise. Purdue's coming off its worst year ever. Revenue share era is upon us. Purdue can't continue to slide down this slope here. And I tell you what, the one thing, Jim, that really surprised a lot of people, it helped. The fans still turned out. The crowds at Ross-Ade Stadium were spectacular for an abysmal football program. So credit to the
Indiana did not have that, let me tell you, until last season. Yeah.
But again,
no
it's still a new thing in Bloomington, where Purdue's had, like you said earlier, a little more history of success here at Purdue than Indiana. Maybe people thought that was a fantasy last year for IU. Maybe they'll show out better this year in Bloomington. But yeah.
Oh no, they ended up showing up. But prior to that, what I was saying, it was like, it was terrible. But last year, I was like, once they got through those first 3 games, and people understood that, oh my God, this is real, man.
They love a winner.
When they went to UCLA, and so then it quickly changed. But basketball, Purdue, opposite situation, been able to maintain a core of guys. Which is unusual in this day and age. Now, how long that will continue once the law firm of Fletcher, Kaufman, Wren, and Lawyer are gone, that is that the last of the Mohicans, so to speak, the last ride of the James gang once those guys are gone?
Yeah, what a rare bird, right, in this day and age to have a roster that's had that much stability. Guys you got out of high school that are still the core.
I don't know that there's an upper level D1 team in the country that has that.
Yeah, that trio right there. This is going to be their 4th year together. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Matt Painter got a little criticism for maybe not using the portal enough, especially going into last year. Well, I think he was always worried about upsetting the balance of his team. To his credit, right? Everybody's got their philosophies. Hard to argue with what Matt Painter's done, right? But this year, we've seen it more aggressive. The kid coming from Israel, Omar Mayer is going to be a big add, the 6'4" guard. They got the kid from South Dakota State, Oscar Clough, and of course the kid from North Florida, Liam, McMurphy. So a little more portal activity this year for Purdue to round out that roster, make them a little bit bigger inside. give another ball handler on the perimeter, another shooter on the perimeter. So, yeah, as you can imagine, Jim, it's April 22nd, and basketball is the number one topic in West Lafayette. Imagine that.
Same here, brother. Same in Bloomington, and it's a different situational. Instead of having a magical core come back, Indiana basketball looking for that magical core as they are putting a roster together with first-year coach Darren DeVries taking over in Bloomington. So a new era coming up with that, a new chapter to the rivalry between Purdue and Indiana, and we'll look forward to that. What's up next for you at On 3?
Well, I just continue to watch this transfer portal, honestly. Like I said, they've got 10 guys right now out of the portal. I've been led to believe, like I said earlier, they could have upwards of 25 to maybe 28 guys. So
That's got a lot, man.
They got, maybe 15, 18 more guys to go here as far as fishing them out of the portal. So that's sort of occupied all my attention at this point in trying to sort through who they got and how good they are. So that's the crux right now in West Lafayette as far as football and me.
Sounds great. Tom Dinhardt from Golden Black, Purdue's On 3 outlet. Appreciate you, brother. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Take care, Jim. Thank you for having me, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Tom Dinhardt joining us here on the program. We've got more coming up. Back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. All right. I don't have to wait since I think that's because he's a journalist, a real journalist. Talking about Tom. Oh, we're at a break, by the way. But I can cut this break short. I don't have any more guests coming on, so I can just jump back and get it going. Yeah. La-di-da. We're on a break. For those of you that are watching, you can jump ahead to, well, I guess you won't have to jump ahead because, well, if you're watching now, it doesn't matter. I'm confusing myself. I have to edit this afterwards, but this version won't be edited. It's crazy. Too much going on. Hank, come here. Hurry up before we get back on the air. Come here. Jump up. Jump up. Say hi. Say hi. Nope. You can't reach the microphone. Sorry. You can't reach the mic. You're out. All right. Go sit down. Sit down. Go sit down. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along. Jim Coyle with you as always. Another fun show. Lots was covered, man. And but there's still so much more that it continues to stop it continues to go on as both portals are open at the moment. Basketball portal closing tonight, today, whatever you want to call it. But the names that are in, you're in. Football closing on Friday, but once you're in, you're in. That was surprising to hear how many names. Tom said that Purdue is expected to land out of the portal. That's a lot. Wow. And that's how you rebuild, though. Indiana, fortunately, on the football side of things, not needing that much, but they need what they need. But I think that is a much better position to be in because you can be a little more choosy and focus on that. Basketball side, a little different. They have needs, and they've got to get to it. Not that there aren't ample players out there, but are the players that they are needing, are they there still? Drexel guard, transfer guard Jason Drake visiting Indiana yesterday. We'll have a report on how that went. He's a Oak Park, Michigan native coming off of a junior season that saw him average 11 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and 33 appearances, shooting 43% from the field, which included nearly 40% from behind the arc. I'm telling you, Darren DeVries is looking to add shooting. I mean, the biggest complaint in a decade at Indiana has been the lack of shooting, ability to shoot the ball. And by that, I mean effectively shoot it from beyond 4 feet. Something Indiana had begrudgingly under Bob Knight became known for, because there were always so many good shooters on his rosters, not because they were just because they were great shooters. They were good basketball players. Shooting went along with that. Seemed to be a little more fundamentally sound. I don't know. But, man, loading up with potentially another guard. He had 17 games this past season where he scored in double figures at Drexel. Before that, he played his freshman season at Cleveland State, appeared in just 17 games, and then played transition down to the JUCO level for 1 season. But apparently now, according to the courts, that doesn't count. Crazy. The Hoosiers have already added guards Connor Enright, Lamar Wilkerson, Josiah Miles, and Tayton Conway from the portal this season. So this would be their 5th guard. That's not an unusual number on any team, though, to be honest with you. 5 guards is not a lot, but especially for a type of program that runs, that shoots, that moves the ball. And Darren DeVries' offense is going to be a motion type offense. You're going to see a lot of ball movement. So you're going to see speed. You're going to see guys getting exerted. I'll have to go back and research his teams on the depth that he would usually go as far as rotations. I haven't had time to do that yet, but I will be curious to go back and see that. I'm also going to be curious about the bigs that Indiana has to be focusing on right now, because that's what they have to land. And landing a big, as far if when you were going into this, obviously the bigs, the front court, not that it's not important. It is important, of course. Everything's important. But you can see where the importance lied for Darren DeVries in filling this first roster. Obviously, he is going after guys that can put the ball in the basket from different places. And that means shooting behind the arc, or the ability to get to the rim, the ability to distribute, the ability to defend. It's not just shooting. When you hear guard, there's a lot that goes into it. And I'm going to be curious on what Indiana ends up, what Darren DeVries ends up getting for his quote unquote, I hate to call him, a main big, but his main guy who ends up being the 5. I know that the preferable would be someone like Danny Wolf, or at the minimum, someone like Vladislav Golden, both from Michigan last year. Different players. One was just a freaking Wolf is just he's a zebra, man. He's a unicorn. His ability to handle the ball, shoot from outside at 7 foot. He's heaven. He's going to be in heaven. NBA GM salivating. Golden, he's got to develop his outside game a little bit, because he's got an inside game. He's got some power. But Indiana, who are they going to get What type of guy are they going to get? A couple, actually. They need two. So it'll be interesting to see the type of player that finishes this out. The rest, I can kind of fill that in. You already know it's the, a Trent Sisley he's a toolbox. He's a utility tool. And I would be surprised if there isn't another player or two like Trent picked up. Guys that can shoot from the outside, that can handle the ball, that can play defense, that can go into the paint and not dominate the paint, but play in there. Rebound, block out, score. Do some dirty work in there. Give an elbow, take an elbow, whatever the case is. A utility man. Nothing more important than a guy that can do multiple things, especially on a team what I am expecting Indiana to be like. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill this in. Looking very much forward to it. Just like looking very much forward to tomorrow's show. Dylan Sin will join us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, of course. Kyle and Ned Ripple get caught up on the all-star situation for Indiana basketball. And the captain, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com as well, to see what is going on with him and his thoughts. Huber's May 28th. That's a Wednesday. I've mentioned it a couple times. And don't forget to go to thehoosier.com. Sign up. Subscribe with those guys today, man, for the best in content. They need you. They've got a huge deal. It's only $1 for the first month, 50% off for the rest of it. That's going to wrap it up for us here on the program today. Grateful for each and every one of you. Looking forward to doing this again tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.